Updated rankings went live in the classes of 2025, 26, and 27. And in that senior class of 2025, there are 14 five-star prospects. You see them there: Shelton Henderson, Braylon Mullins, Malik Thomas, Braden Burries, Elijah Arenas, Caleb Wilson, Koa Pete. That gets to the top 7, and that list begins with Chris Senak. Then it goes to Mikel Brown, Darius Acuff, Nate Ament, Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson, and AJ DeBonsa in the top spot. Now, when those rankings were released on Wednesday, I went on social media and I said, hey, if you have questions, let me know. I'll answer it on the show. Well, the number one question I got was about the battle for the number 2 spot, specifically Darren Peterson versus Cam Boozer. And that is an appropriate question because I tell you what, it was the biggest subject of debate within our group. Now, I have teammates on the group who didn't think it was much debate at all. They said Peterson's upside is the highest, and I would agree with that. Here is the point I will make about Cam Boozer, though. Some people say, hey, he's down to 3. He's the most successful high school player maybe we've seen in history. And you know what? Those people are right. Cam Boozer is, in my opinion, the surest thing there is in this class. Even now, when you're projecting long-term, you have to ask yourself 2 things. You have to say, what's the best case scenario? Darren Peterson's best case scenario may be higher at this point than Cam Boozer's. But Cam Boozer's worst case scenario, I think, is the best in this class. I don't see a scenario, short of any unexpected injuries, where Cam Boozer isn't a long and successful NBA player. The moral of this entire story is this: whether it's AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, maybe even Nate Ament or Darius Acuff, this is a battle in that top 5 that is still alive and well and not going to be figured out until the postseason is over, until we see him go head-to-head in McDonald's, until we see him in Hoop Summit and other various postseason events. So stay tuned and keep your eyes open because we certainly are. All right, with that, I'm going to welcome in my 247 teammate, Travis Branham. We're going to talk about some of the biggest risers here. And Trav, the first player I want to ask you about is Elijah Arenas, the son of Gilbert Arenas. He is new to the class. What is his long-term upside?
Yeah, I mean, in the 2026 class, we had him ranked as a 5-star, and even upon his reclassification, you don't really see that often in terms of a kid maintaining that 5-star status, and he has. And what's really stood out about him is the size, the length, and his body type for a position. And he's just a very advanced, very skilled 3-level scored, and that should come as no surprise. If anybody knows about Elijah Arenas, they know he is the son of former Arizona and NBA star Gilbert Arenas, who filled it up for years in the NBA, and his son gets those same attributes from his father. So a 3-level scorer that is going to be an instant impact kid in college, but looks like he's a professional scorer at some point in his life.
All right, he also has terrific positional size, long arms, and a body type that you can see from those highlights he's still very much growing into. I would also add that he remains uncommitted, so his recruitment is one of the biggest storylines in this class. Trav, with every ranking update, there are some notable risers, and there were some guys in particular that you really championed their cause. So I want to give you an opportunity to identify someone that's made a big jump, in large part based on what you've seen in the last 4 months.
Yeah, if anybody has been following my work this season, they've heard me talk religiously about Braden Hawthorne. He was a guy that flew under the radar for his first 3 seasons of high school basketball, committed to West Virginia, and again, was one of those commitments nobody really picked up nationally, including us, in terms of like the spotlight and the attention. But as I've gotten to watch him more this season, he is one of the players that I am most excited about with what he can be in the future. 6'8", versatile forward, can play the 3 and 4. Now, physically, he's still a baby. He's a guy that's very thin, very lean, and in the face, he still looks very young. So I think there's a lot of promise in what he can ultimately, the muscle he can put on, the weight he can put on once he gets into a college weight room. But as far from a skill standpoint, he has it all. A guy that can step out, make shots from 3 consistently. He's got a lot of wiggle with the basketball, can create off the bounce. A guy that's a really good passer for the position, and he competes every single possession on the defensive end of the floor, can really cover ground with that size and length. And so right now, all that's missing is the strength component. I think in time when that comes along, he's going to be a guy that we are really impressed with in the Mountaineer jersey.
All right, the player that I want to highlight is Mohamed Silla. Now, this is his first year stateside. He was previously at the NBA Academy, and right now he is at Bella Vista Prep. I still think he's under the radar for a lot of people, despite the fact that he was recruited by Blue Bloods before making a commitment to Damon Stoudemire and Georgia Tech. I believe he's the most important player to commit to Damon Stoudemire since he arrived at that program. Reason being, I think when we look back on this class, we are going to say it was Mo Silla who is the very best shot blocker in this group. He's a high-level athlete. He's got incredible movement skills for a player his size. He's got a translatable offensive role as a rim runner and a lob threat. And as he continues to grow on that end of the floor, his upside's just going to grow. But defensively, this is, in my opinion, the premier big man in the class. I think if he were eligible for the McDonald's All-American game, or if he were going to a blue blood school, more people would take notice of just how good he is. But I think that's all to come in the next few months and years. All right, Trav, 2026 rankings came out on Thursday. And again, I want to give you a chance to highlight a main riser who you were particularly championing here in recent months.
Yeah, the guy who has excited me the most in this class so far this season is Luka Foster out of Archbishop Carroll in Pennsylvania. We saw them both together down at City of Palms. And when he took on Montverde, man, his team was very outmatched, but Luka Foster absolutely brought it. When we watched him this past summer with the team final AAU program playing on this under 16 circuit, what really stood out was the size, length, and shot making. The shot looked really clean. He could stretch the floor. But this season, his athleticism has really come into play here. He was a lot more bursty with the basketball, showed more wiggle, had a much tighter handle. That was something we didn't really see this summer. Is just what he can do with the basketball in his hands. And so now with that athleticism, his frame still has a ways to go when it comes to filling out and getting stronger. But now you're adding two elements into his game with the shot making and the ability to create off the dribble. So I think he still has his best basketball in his future. So you're talking about a 6'6" wing / guard with plenty of untapped potential.
The junior that I want to highlight is Christian Collins, and if you've been watching this show, you know that Eric Bossi has already talked about him as a major riser. He ended up jumping all the way from 15 to number 3. We are talking about a 6'8" forward on the verge of becoming a jumbo wing, a 7'2" wingspan, and while he is far from a finished product, the versatility of his tools and long-term upside is just absolutely off the charts. He's actually high school teammates with our number 2 ranked junior, Brandon McCoy. In McCoy's absence due to injury, Collins has really emerged. He can rebound, he can run, he can move in ways that most 6'8" players can't. Again, tremendous versatility. He's up to 3 now, but he may not be done. You can see the entirety of these rankings as Trav, Bossi, Deshaun, and Brandon and I have put in a lot of time and effort. They are all available on the 247sports.com site. Trav, thanks as always for joining us. Make sure you visit there for the wall-to-wall team coverage, recruiting rankings, and transfer portal updates.